important aspect is that the digital platforms are a set of social technical elements such as hardware, software, organizational connections, and applicable standards. It is worth mentioning that early model of software delivery where the development teams had to distribute software on physical media with associated licenses that consumers were required to purchase. That form of distribution caused, for example, problems with actualizations of these systems. Nowadays, with the expansion of the internet, this distribution model shifted towards making applications available for download and licensing online. On the other, one of the most important aspects of digital platforms is that they facilitate transactions between different market participants. These transactions might have never occurred under other circumstances due to a lack of information or significant costs in finding the other party. Also in the field of economics, platforms can be considered as markets, two-sided markets or multi-sided markets. Two-sided markets, especially that brings together intermediaries, producers, users, and in such market, two groups of agents interact through a shared platform. It is a market where two groups interact via the platform, and the decisions made by one group affect the outcomes for the other group. An example of this could be a payment card network, where consumers who are card users and merchants that owns terminal represent those two sides of the market. Or another example may be a sector of video games. The two sides then are players and game developers on platforms, for example, Sony or Nintendo, which that platform in that case is an intermediary between gamers and developers. Digital platforms are also associated with multi-sided markets, where several market segments exist, each with different values, levels of development, and objectives. And the key distinguishing feature of multi-sided platforms is the presence of multiple user groups interacting with each other and providing mutual benefits. Value then is generated through direct and indirect interactions among users, as well as by controlling or facilitating access to services, various services, through subscription models or membership rules. An example of multi-sided markets may be social media platforms like Facebook, or sharing services platforms such as Uber or Airbnb, where value is generated through direct and indirect interactions with users. New challenges also arise from the increasing scale of platform innovation, the complexity of platform architectures, and the proliferation of digital platforms across various industries. But in the end, there is still a lack of definitive definition of platforms, and more precise definitions often relate to a specific type of them based on the services offered. Among the typologies of platforms, distinctions can be made into two or three main categories, as well as into multiple categories focusing on the platform's purpose. As can be already seen on that slide, the first typology of digital platforms concerning their purpose and capabilities posits the existence of two groups: transaction platforms and technology platforms. Transaction platforms that facilitate the matching of demand and supplies, or buyers and sellers, such as Amazon. Technology platforms that refer to the technical infrastructure that allows for the creation of additional platforms or the integration of solutions onto one's own platform, such as Microsoft or any app stores. Another classification can be made into three categories of platforms, such as transaction, innovation, and hybrid companies. Transaction platforms that facilitate exchanges, innovation platforms that provide the technological foundation for the development of additional platforms, and the third category, hybrid companies that began their operation as one type of platform but then over time evolved to exhibit characteristics of the second time. Also, this typology can be distinguished into multiple categories. One of such categorization is shown now, when we can distinguish e-commerce platforms, content creation platforms, business collaboration, knowledge sharing, learning, social media, gaming, finance, healthcare, or transport, and so on. It depends on what the purpose of the platform, main purpose of a platform really is. Also, it is worth noting that typologies presented on this slide are only selected examples of many classifications existing in literature. And network effects in the digital platforms is the topic of this presentation. Network effects may be one of the key aspects of the development and sustainability of digital platforms in the market. Even if two different platforms offer similar functionalities, one may be more valuable due to the network it has created and the engagement of various groups of stakeholders in its operation. Network effects occurs when industry platforms connect users with other users and the value of one user's experience increases as the number of other users utilizing this platform rises. A small user base on a given platform has limited potential to attract numerous advertisers or developers. Network effects can also be described as a phenomenon of mutual attraction. In the case of two-sided platforms, the number of users in the second group will define the value of the platform for users in the first group. For example, a gaming platform with a lot of gamers who are potential buyers of a video game may attract game developers. Also, platforms with a wide variety of games and community may be valuable for other gamers and attract them to join that platform. The number of participants and the intensity of platforms use can significantly influence both the number of additional participants and the volume of generated network effects. In that case, there is a possibility to somehow estimate the value of a network. And for example, in a network with two nodes, two people, on that platform there is only one connection between them. However, when that number of users increases to 5, there are already 10 connections. Everyone can interact with other person on that platform. And the number of unique connections within such a network increases as the number of users grows. And this can be described in the formula presented on that slide. These network effects also we can categorize. The network effects on the digital platforms can be categorized as within groups, direct, and cross-group, indirect effects, and also they can have positive or negative impact on others. A within group effect occurs when users of the same group on a platform influence each other in that same group. A cross-group effect happens when a new user in one group affects the other group. Positive and negative effects represent the nature of this interaction and its impact on other users and the platform itself. Within group effects occur when users of the same group on a platform positively or negatively influence each other. For example, users who communicate through a comment or review system can shape the behavior of others within that group. On the other hand, an increase in the number of users diminishes the service quality for everyone, like slower loading of platform. A cross-group effect happens when a new user in one group affects the other group, also positively or negatively. For example, an increasing number of buyers on transaction platforms positively impacts the seller group. On the other hand, a negative cross-group network effects can occur when, for example, too many advertisements on, for example, content creation platforms degrade the experience for content consumers, reducing their engagement and satisfaction. Positive interactions can contribute to further effects observed on platforms. Firstly, positive direct network effect can trigger an attraction loop where an increasing number of positive interactions draws more users to the platform, further enhancing its appeal, its value. In turn, positive indirect network effect can lead to an attraction spiral where heightened activity in one group stimulates greater participation from the other group. Network effects are often understood as encompassing the entire platform. However, it is also worth noting that they can also be limited by geographical or social factors. As a result, the value of a network may not be uniformly determined, and an increasing number of platform users does not necessarily lead to the same network effects across the board. The growth in platform value may depend on the proximity of additional users, either within a small geographical area or within a specific community. And this issue should be really relevant for new platforms entering the market, as they must determine the geographical scope and target audience for their offerings. Digital transport platforms, this is one of the types of platforms mentioned earlier in these presentations. Within this category, further subdivisions can be made. For the purpose of this article, the focus is on the platforms related to the public transport and shared mobility. In the case of public transport, digital platforms facilitate travel by enabling ticket purchases, often at a reduced cost, in electronic form. They can provide access to timetables and allow users to plan journeys between designated points. These routes can also be optimized to meet the specific requirements of individual users, such as minimizing travel time or reducing the number of transfers. Access to timetables or ticket purchases for multiple urban areas from a single platform can also be a positive aspect and a factor influencing participant choices when selecting a platform to use. In the context of shared mobility, digital platforms are often essential for utilizing this mode of transport. To access bicycles, scooters, or cars, the platform provides information about available services in a specific area, presents costs, information for the trip, and also unlocks the vehicle the user intends to use. Many vehicles available for rent is a significant factor influencing the user's decision when choosing a platform. On the other hand, an increasing number of individuals renting vehicles serves as an indicator for operators to make additional vehicles available. Another crucial aspect for users may be the sharing of reviews and experiences regarding the service utilized, as this can influence the choices of subsequent users. On the other hand, an excessive number of actively participating users on the platform may lead to the blocking of a significant number of vehicles in each location, which negatively affects the user experience. And network effects in transport platforms can be observed in the case of both of public transport platforms and shared mobility platforms. In case of shared mobility, it was shortly described on the previous slide, but still. In public transport, network effects on platforms may not necessarily be generated by the increasing number of users of that platform, but by the expanding the geographical reach of the platforms, the growing number of public transport operators available on that one platform. This increases the platform's value for users, can attract additional participants, and similarly, the situation will be comparable when a single platform integrates timetables from an increasing number of transport operators. A digital platform that facilitates travel using public transport may be more valuable for travelers. On the other hand, in the case of shared mobility platforms, network effects are generated both by the increasing number of users joining the platforms and by the vehicles made available for sharing. A table shown on that slide presents examples of effects within shared mobility platforms. For bicycles and scooters, a greater number of users may sometimes result in vehicles being blocked for other users, and this negative impact will be more pronounced when there is an insufficient number of vehicles relative to the number of individuals interested in renting them. On the other hand, a lack of interest in the platform will lead to a situation where new vehicles do not appear in that area to attract attention, resulting in an absence of a noticeable attraction spiral. Positive experience from sharing and the sharing of experience can positively influence the number of users on the platform, attraction loop, ultimately leading to the introduction of additional vehicles within the network. To sum up my presentation, it is worth noting that an additional issue could be addressed within the context of digital platforms in transport that involve taxi services or platforms that connect passengers with drivers who can provide rides along routes specified by the passenger. However, that was not the case of that paper, and it can be further researched. In the context of urban mobility platforms frequently serve to facilitate movement. They can contribute to increasing the efficiency of travel by, for example, reducing travel costs, shortening travel times, and enhancing travel comfort. The network effects in platforms related to public transport are more likely to be generated by the addition of new urban areas served by the platform rather by the influx of new users. Within shared mobility platforms, network effects arise from both the increasing number of users and the availability of additional vehicles for transport. Research in this area could also focus on issues related to the locality of generated network effects, the strength of effects produced by new users, vehicles or areas, as well as the network value.